Hey guys, divorce attorney Sean Smallwood here. Wanted to make a divorce attorney reaction video to the 1994 Tim Allen classic, The Santa Claus. All right, before I get started, I want to let you guys know that nothing in this video is meant to insult Tim Allen or this movie. This is a phenomenal movie. But the coolest thing about it, for me at least, is the fact that this movie includes some really serious child custody and divorce type issues that I totally forgot about. I was watching this movie with my kids the other day, and I was reminded about how serious some of the family law litigation aspects of this movie are. And I have to say, starting out, that I felt like the filmmakers did a really good job of capturing what the legal process of these divorce, child custody disputes are. And as a divorce lawyer providing a reaction video, I have to believe that somebody on the set has gone through this before. Somebody on the set has had major high conflict custody issues with their ex, and they really express some of their pain in the making of this movie. I haven't researched that, but if anyone wants to look into it, let me know in the comments. That'd be cool. Okay, first off, obviously in this movie, Tim Allen's character and his ex-wife have been divorced. Tim Allen's got visitation with his child, looks like alternating weekends with his young son. And the movie kind of starts out with the young son spending Christmas holiday time sharing with Tim Allen's character. So the first thing I noted here is it looks like from the movie, what I gleaned is that he only has alternating weekends or something like that with his son. These days, dads get a lot more time sharing than that. In fact, in Florida, where I am, there is a legal presumption in favor of 50-50 equal contact, which is a great thing. So the first thing I noticed is that if this was taking place now instead of 1994, I believe that dad would have had a lot more time sharing with the child than he did in this movie. Next thing we noticed is as Tim Allen's character starts putting on weight and having all of his hair and his growing this great bushy white beard, he's transitioning into Santa Claus. His ex-wife is seeing him at different things like child exchanges, meetings at school for the child, and she's starting to get alarmed. She's starting to think, "Oh my God, has this guy lost his mind? Is he insane?" The child is talking about how, "Mommy, Daddy is Santa Claus, and I went to the North Pole on Christmas, and I'm friends with the elves." And so the ex-wife is starting to think, "Oh no, my ex-husband has gone completely insane, and now he's brainwashing and convincing our child that our child is visiting the North Pole and that he's Santa Claus and that the child is friends with elves." And so mom gets alarmed. And so mom ultimately files an emergency motion to suspend Tim Allen's character's or Santa Claus's time sharing with his child. And so it's from a divorce attorney perspective, it's interesting to see this because in reality, we see a lot of emergency motions getting filed right before Christmas. That is a very common thing. Any divorce lawyer you talk to, you say, "Hey, what's the most common thing you see right before Christmas?" They'll say, emergency motions. And lo and behold, in this movie, it's no different. They did a great job of capturing the reality of divorce law practice. Ex-wife files an emergency motion to suspend Tim Allen's time sharing with his child, and the motion gets granted. Santa Claus gets his time sharing with his child temporarily suspended. Now, there's a couple things about this aspect of the movie that really bring out the divorce lawyer reaction in me. First off, we do get to see, and in the movie, we get to be present at this emergency custody hearing. And first off, the child is there. Okay, the child is going to be interviewed by the judge. In reality, what would happen there is the ex-wife would have had to file a separate motion for child appearance and testimony. And I'm sure that Tim Allen's character would have objected to that, and they could have tied that up in litigation. Obviously, this is Hollywood, so they had to skip some of that stuff. But the biggest thing I noticed is neither of the parties had lawyers. The ex-wife didn't have a lawyer, which I think normally you would see the ex-wife having a lawyer to help her file something like this. And but the biggest, most glaring piece of it is Tim Allen's character, Santa Claus, comes running up the hallway in the courthouse, late for the hearing. Jolly old Saint Nick trotting up there, and he doesn't have an attorney. Now, this really struck me because we've got Santa Claus, who has the full weight and resources of the magical North Pole at his disposal. So I believe that if it had been in reality, Santa Claus would have had a team of the most expensive, best attorneys there tying this thing up in litigation. I don't think he would have shown up late without an attorney. I don't even think there would have been an emergency hearing. I think there would have been a lot of intense litigation, and he would have probably been able to continue with his time sharing throughout this process. In the end, though, the judge, as I said, did grant the ex-wife's emergency motion to suspend Tim Allen or Santa Claus's time with his kid. And then what happens that same night? And this is crazy, okay? And it's interesting. In the movie, the same night, Tim Allen shows up at the ex-wife's house. Okay, the stepdad bars the door, right, with his arm, and then he turns around to say something to his Tim Allen's ex, and Tim Allen just sneaks in under his arm and starts conversing with the child in the living room. So the divorce attorney in me is just screaming at this point, no, because you just had an emergency order suspending your time sharing with your kid, and you've shown up unannounced at your ex-wife's house that night. You've now forced your way into her home, and you're talking to the child in violation of this court order. And then the coup de grace, the cherry on top, is Tim Allen, when the wife and her husband are out of the room arguing, Tim Allen takes this child and boom, just disappears. Just disappears. Now, in the movie, they're flying around in a sled with reindeer. They're doing Santa Claus stuff. But in reality, as a practitioner in this profession, we have seen and heard really awful horror stories about parents just losing it and kidnapping the child and either absconding from the jurisdiction or the country with the child, or doing some horrible thing, committing some act of domestic violence that night after the hearing. So anytime you have someone, they have an adverse order in court and then they just show up at the ex-wife's house unannounced, and it always sends chills up a practitioner's spine. But the moviegoer is watching this movie and they're like, oh no, they're being so mean to Santa. They took Santa's son away, and poor Santa just wanted to see his son. And I totally get that. I was saying the same thing when I was watching the movie. But the problem is, in reality, that is not teaching people a good lesson. In reality, if the judge temporarily suspends your contact time on an emergency motion, and if you show up at your ex-wife or ex-husband's house that night and you just force your way in, start talking to the kid and take the kid, it's not going to be a happy ending to that movie, right? Like it was for Tim Allen. It's not going to be a happy ending because the ex-wife isn't going to find out that you're Santa Claus, and she's not going to apologize. She's not going to tear up the emergency order. No, you're going to go to jail, and you're probably going to have some permanent limitation on your time with your kid, or at least some very long-lasting one, as you try to convince the judge that you are capable of following court orders and you're not some dangerous person. The filmmakers did a great job, again, of weaving in these really realistic aspects of divorce law and child custody into this movie. The only thing that I think is really super unrealistic is the way it ended up. Because if you or me tried to do what Tim Allen did after having that court order against him, we'd have gone to jail. Yeah, we would not be seeing our kid that much afterwards. And it would have been a huge problem. But for Tim Allen, it was a happy ending. That was the only unrealistic part of it. Other than that, I'd give these filmmakers a solid A is their grade for how good a job they did of accurately portraying these child custody issues in this movie, and still doing that and still making this movie feel really good, be a really enjoyable time. Again, if you haven't seen this movie, definitely check it out. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, if this added some value to your situation, then please don't hesitate to hit that thumbs up icon. That really helps us out. We are a young channel just starting out. So if you want to see more videos like this, then definitely hit that subscribe button. And don't forget, nothing in this video is meant to constitute legal advice or to establish an attorney-client relationship. Always consult your own attorney in your jurisdiction about your specific set of facts if you're ever going through anything like this. Guys, I will see you in the next one.